Okay. Right. Hi everybody. Just coming on. My name's John Kane. I just wanted to talk to you about some ideas and insights I've had over the past. I've kind of put together a presentation, so hope it goes okay. This is kind of off the cuff and not really had any practices. I've tried to do it once before, but microphone, it was making a noise, so I'm just doing it again. Yes, I'll just give you a little bit of background about me. Yeah, I'm a time-served engineer. Been a truck designer, machinist, qualified, well, got a degree in engineering, a teaching degree, and then I've been into building with my hands, high-end kitchens and wooden structures, and also been recently global manager for the Keshe Foundation, which is involved with plasma technology, which I've been developing with it. And yes, I've been, I'll just shut that off. Okay, no problem. Yeah, so I've been, yeah, numerous skills I've been involved with, but actually now we're still involved with the Keshe Foundation, waiting on some work because we were developing factories to roll out plasma technology, working on the gravitational magnetic field of the planet, creating plasma water for agriculture and also health benefits. So yeah, if you want to look at any of that, I can add details in at a later date. So that's that, and I'm also a Reiki master and crystal healer. So I've gone from an engineering linear brained thinking to a spiritual, holistic, universal way of thinking. So linking that together, this is part of what my presentation is about. I've been working with sacred geometry. I've got quite a bit of interest in the plantonic solids. I've done lots of research into various people, which I'll touch on some of those now going through this. Family background, I'll just give you a little bit of family background from my father's side, because my father, my grandfather, great uncle have played big roles in the planet's progress or planetary peace in the past, because they were highly decorated soldiers. Father was in the Korean War and the special forces, the SAS 24 Squadron. But in Korea, he was in the parachute regiment and was trained in insurgents, and he basically won the military cross because he worked directly with Matthew Ridgway, which I'm looking to get his book published, which is interesting, very controversial stuff in there. But he was pretty much a hero on that front, and so too my grandfather, who was at World War II. He was at Anzo landings in Dunkirk. He was one of the last troops out of Dunkirk, and he also won the military cross. But probably the most reputable out of my family is Robert Kane, who won the VC at Arnhem in Holland, which was the bridge too far based on, and he won the Victoria Cross, which there's a documentary Jeremy Clarkson did on him in the early 2000s. So yeah, so that's a little bit of family background, but just for yeah, I just wanted to get that because I'll be doing some more videos and trying to break into a bit more depth of what I'm going to cover now. So just to let you know where I've come from and my background, and I'll now talk about my ideas and thoughts on the multidimensional MerKaBa. I've been like I say, I've been interested in the geometry, and when you look at the MerKaBa, the current one that we know, which is the two tetrahedrons as shown on the screen, basically, yeah, it's what the flag of Israel's based on as well. It's just want to shut this down if I can. Does it keep coming through? Oh, no worries. Yeah, it's based on like the Star of David, the Israeli flag. It's known in the East as the chakra, or the central chakra from the heart. That I believe it's the 0 point energy from your heart, which starts your heartbeat off, or your cells as birth from 1 to 2 to 4 to 8 to 16, 32, 64, and so on, that amplifies out to generate the energy field from your heart. And my perspective is, if we might look at the MerKaBa, does it represent points of projection onto the dimension of the current reality plane? So, for instance, is the points of them tetrahedrons in 3D terms, the top and the bottom, do they represent like the soul star chakra and the earth star from a 4D perspective? And then the three node points on the plane here, and they represent the chakra that are going down your. So you've say this MerKaBa is the center of your heart, which is your first point, your first chakra. Then you fire 3 up, which is your throat, third eye, and crown, and 3 down, which is solar plexus, sacral, root. So they're your 7 chakra. So you've got the 1 point being the center of the MerKaBa, 3 of the node points on the 3D plane, and that's your energy body, your soul MerKaBa energy system. But it's like a projection for people who think about the reality being like a hologram. Is it a projection from 4th dimension, being in like the astral, when you go into dream state and you have lucid dreams, you're actually, consciousness is leaving your physical body and exploring the 4th dimensional astral plane? Is that how we're living current reality? So yeah, just moving on to this, I will go into the MerKaBa further. So yeah, is that what it represents? Like looking at the pyramids of Giza, that are they representing 4th dimensional consciousness and technology? Because the square base with points top and bottom, which this really shows pretty well in terms of like, is that your light body, your spirit body, your astral body essence? Was that how the consciousness was? There's certain texts and scrolls that are probably hidden from us, which maybe in the Vatican and other places where things have been hidden. Are they giving us information that we should know? Like they believed in the Egyptian times that once people died in physicality, that they could still communicate with the afterlife, with the people that passed over. So they were still in that, they could still connect with the consciousness of the person who physically passed on. So that's like the equivalent of people who can channel now, I suppose, and mediums and things like that. But is that what those pyramids, they were at a higher level of consciousness, this is for sure, to be able to build the pyramids. I've been and seen them, and they can't be built, can't be replicated now. So, you know, there's something we're not being told, and this is what I'm trying to put some clarity into. So yeah, just move on, just covering a bit of the geometric shapes, you know. So these are the plantonics that Plato came up with, great Greek philosopher, and Socrates for their philosophy and mathematics stuff, Pythagoras as well. But more modern terms, I do use a guy for reference, which is a guy called Nassim Haramein. That's like the modern day Einstein. He discusses tetrahedron and how the heartbeat works with, and how the tetrahedron is the best shape for holding perfect vector equilibrium for physical matter to form and hold solid states. That's maybe why, you know, we don't see things vibrating out of frequency, because it's based on the tetrahedron 3D construct. So yeah, I'll just run through a few of them. So you've got the tetrahedron that represents the element of fire. Then you've got the cube, which represents Earth in effect. Octahedron, which is the pyramids of Giza base to base, which my belief is that's 4D, fourth dimensional element, wind, because you can't see it, but you can feel it, you know it's there. It's an energy that's passing across, so across the face of the Earth. And that's basically the pyramids of Giza base to base. So you know, a lot of these shapes speak quite a bit of sense in my eyes. So yeah, that's the octahedron. Moving on, then you've got the dodecahedron, which is related to the ether, which is the, you know, energy, the plasma, or what everything's sat in, this sea of energy. And then you've maybe got you've got the isosahedron, which represents water. But I'll run into how these can expand so that the isosahedron can become outside of the dodecahedron again. And, you know, we know water, there's fire in water with hydrogen and oxygen. So, you know, I touch on water as being one of the miracle elements out of all the elements that we, you know, experience day to day. Yeah, so the MerKaBa is built of those two tetrahedrons interlocked. For people who are not fully familiar, it's one pointing up, one pointing down, and spun through 60 degrees to create the interlocking MerKaBa. But in effect, they spin clockwise and anti-clockwise individually to generate the energy field from the heart. Which we'll touch on again later as we move through. So yeah, the MerKaBa creates a 0-point energy which manifests at center within the ether and generates a sphere, which creates the planet, basically the sphere of the planet, and a torus field, which maybe that energy does come from a higher geometry, which I'll talk about, but that's the energy that spins the planet, and this is what I'll be touching on. So, you know, there's a donut that is the torsion field, torus field, that's like the electromagnetic or gravitational magnetic field that we see as the spiral when you flush the toilet, for instance, and the vortex that goes down. But I'll go on to it's like a seashell, which I've got a picture of. Yeah, we'll go on to the harmonics. So you've got different harmonics: first, second, third, fourth, fifth, sixth, seventh, eighth, ninth harmonic. Like musical, you know, we can touch on musical scales and that. But if people are interested, I'll not go into it now, but there's if you want to look at this YouTube clip that shows like a squashed liquid that is put in a levitation chamber, and then the harmonics are vibrated through the liquid, and it shows the patterns alternating through from a single disc to 2 to 3 to 4 to 5, like showing the oscillations. So that's worth a look. Yeah, Tetrahedron Height. This is just a bit of mathematics, just basic stuff. It's good for the kids, really, as well, to break down pretty complex mathematics into something that I found to find simple, complex geometry, mathematics in simple shapes. So, for instance, if you want to do a view on, YouTube, type in, find me the tetrahedron height. What's the mathematics involved for that? And it goes into some quite complex maths, where you find the center of the base of the triangle, and you have to go up and calculate the trigonometry to find the angle, to find you the exact height of the tetrahedron when you join them together. There's quite a bit involved. I did look at it, and then really what I did find is that this is given in simple square and hexagon. If you measure the distance across the corners of a square, it's the square root of 2, and the square root of 3 is the distance across the flats of a hexagon. So if you put one over the other, that gives you this figure, 0.1864, which when you work out the tetrahedral height, so the 3D geometry, to give you that 3D solid, it's absolutely perfect. So just simple things from, complex to maths from simple 2D shapes. And this is why I've explained that, because I want to go into the Fullerene, the C60 carbon molecule, the human being, the man, woman, were made of carbon and water mainly, but the C60 is the Buckminster Fuller. He's another great visionary and scientist, more recent. He understood that the carbon molecule is like what a football was like, the hexagon Pentagon relationship. It's like a lattice structure, 2D lattice structure of the hexagon and pentagon, which creates a 3D molecule of the C60 carbon. So bearing that in mind, I want to expand on that from that. And just for people who are not familiar with phi ratio, the universal spiral, the golden ratio, this is what it is. We don't get taught it at school. We get taught about pi for the circumference area of a circle. We don't get told about the energy that's passing through us all the time. Like I say, when you flush the toilet, you get a vortex as it goes down because it's the energy passing through us all the time. And a great example is a seashell. It just shows that spiral constantly growing bigger and bigger and bigger, into a complex spiral. As in, nature shows this quite a lot in different areas. Well, we're made, all insects, all animals, including us, including mammals, and we're all built with this phi ratio. If you measure the tip of your finger to your knuckle joint, times it by 1.618, gives you the next bone from your first knuckle to your finger joint, and then the next one to your knuckles, up to your knuckles. So, and also your face and everything's built in that sort of sense. And just for those who understand the golden ratio, the phi it's like basically 1 plus 1 equals 2, and then 2 plus 1 equals 3, and 3 plus 2 equals 5, 5 and 3, 8, 8 and 5, 13, and so on. You just add the last 2 digits to give you the golden ratio. Fibonacci ratio, as well as it's known. So that's that. And then I just wanted to touch on the 6 and 5 relationship and phi, because this is something I stumbled across myself, that if you put 6 over 5, which is relevant, which you'll see shortly, times that this is the symbol for phi, the pH height, squared, equals pi, or more or less to it, and just the maths is here. So it's 1.2 times 1.618 squared. So that gives you that. 1.2 times 2.618 equals 3.14150. Whereas when you hit the calculator button, that is what pi is, 3.14159. So it's accurate to 4 decimal places. So I thought that was pretty interesting, just to share, and just making this relevant to the flower of life. People know about that, Vesica Pisces and that, and this is how trees, if you look at the trunk, the rings of a tree, they represent this growth ratio, flower of life, effectively, which I'm sure people will have heard of. But yeah, you can build the shapes from within this. You've got like the MerKaBas there in a 2D form in effect, but then you've got the hexagon that can be around the side. So I just wanted to use this to show the square root of 3, which, so I've drawn 100 millimeters per side of a hexagon. So the tips of the hexagon would be 200, but across the flats is 173.205, which is the square root of 3. So that's just to give you the yeah, you see that in nature with obviously like honeycomb, bees' honeycombs, which, yeah, the honeycomb holds the bees' honey, which is energy. So that suggests that a hexagon is a perfect shape for storing charge or energy, yeah. And I will go on to that a bit further. So that's, yeah, going back, so that just covers that. Now this is what I've used to correlate the Pentagon pyramid, pentagonal pyramid. So people, just to give a bit of a breakdown for the Pentagon, basically the Pentagon is the most balanced shape you can get. In terms of when I was in engineering, 5-cylinder engine, for instance, is the most balanced engine you can get. It's smoother than a 6-cylinder, surprisingly enough. I mean, people may think that more cylinders the better, but I think it's to do with the firing angle, because each degrees between each point is 72 degrees, which is numerology 9, which is the universal spiral, because numbers are a universal language, which I'll expand on a little bit more as we go through. But this was just, so basically I'll just explain here that say the length of the pyramid, the Pentagon base here is 100 millimeters, so 100, 100, 100, 100. The distance across the widest points of the Pentagon is phi, so that would be 161.8. So it's the only shape that has that relation of phi. So that means it's in, going back to the Buckminster Fuller, you've got the perfect store of charge in a hexagon, and then you've got Pentagon perfect distribution of energy, or the most balanced distribution of energy between that. So that's a relationship. So what I've done is I've built a model with that being phi, but then instead of having the hexagon next to what would build up the C60 carbon molecule, I've taken the height, I've taken it into its third dimension of that relationship. So we've got the height of a hexagon. So if that's 161.8, the height of it, the height of this will be 173.2. So yeah, that's of interest. And then when you do this in the solid model, if you then find the 0 point of that solid, which is this, what that's locating there, it's called the point of equilibrium. Some mass properties that you can look at doing. That gives you the center point. And so what I've done from there is I've looked to do a second one of those and interlock it to give you a multi-dimensional, fifth dimensional MerKaBa. So this is what it gives, and so that 0 point mass position will be there. So I've interlocked it, spun it through 36 degrees to give you the perfect balance of that, which are classed as a multi-density MerKaBa. So that, to me, can be the energy signature for the electromagnetic field. You know, you've got the Earth sphere, solid matter, and you've got an atmosphere, which you could say is like the nervous system, the energy body, which we have too. And then you've got like your aura or whatever beyond that, which could be the planets, torus field, the electromagnetic energy that spins the planet. Yeah, so this is what I'm putting the geometry relating to this. So, you know, my theory is that you can make this from into technology by, you know, using people who are familiar with the cache technology. They use the MerKaBa or the star formation, the two tetrahedrons, and they put gases, nano, solid elements, which is the next level beyond nanomaterials, in balls and spin them at the points, and it creates a field, and it's shown that it creates movement between. There's demonstrations of that, but I'll not go too much into that in a minute because I just want to get over the geometry. Well, my idea is that you can use this, but it is actually your soul signature, because it's actually related to the soul energy that we carry, and can be used to create physical technology that we can maybe use to power craft or anti-gravity vehicles, or, you know, free energy technology. So this was a part of my idea, was to build something like this up. I've done garden features with it, and I've meditated in the one of the things which I found that some difference, and I could feel like a cold plasma field above the point, which I do have footage and pictures of a garden feature I did with that. But I've not got around to the technology. There's been too much going on, and I'm moving all the time. So that will be being done. So you can take this as, you know, what you will. That's the geometry I came up with. I will go into some interesting facts that interlocks the equilateral triangle in here, which to me shows it's still in relation to the tetrahedron, the equilateral triangle. It's built into this. It's like a meshing nicely with it. Let's put it that way. Yeah, you can use argonite crystals, which are hexagonal at the points. So that could be like a 6-dimensional points of projection onto a 5D energy plane, you know, which might be a light body, your aura that will, which is there. There's cameras, GDV camera, gas discharge, the Curlian, Russian scientist, developed. So there's even technology that shows this energy. So that look into that GDV camera and look at the pictures of energy off plants and off people. Yeah, it's worth looking into. Yeah, this, you get the quasi-crystal effect, which is the hexagon-pentagon relationship, but in, like I say, instead of it being carbon lattice, it's, I'm wanting to expand it into the next dimension aspect of that relationship. Yeah, so it's the geometry of the hexagon, pentagon, yeah, to create a 3D molecule, element, whatever, signature of shape. So I'll move on, and whilst doing this, because I've been looking into it for a number of years, a few years now, and I was going to do this earlier, but wanted to get some more clarity, and I've expanded on stuff. But this was a crop circle that appeared in Wiltshire in July 2018. And I found it interesting. Shout out to the guy, I'm using this, it's all for educational benefits. So, but this crop circle appeared, which is, crop circles are like a cymatic pattern, but to me it's in 3D. So this could be representing what I've done there in effect, but with additional, you know, showing a positive, these flowers maybe being the positive, these being the negative times two maybe, because when I show you the negative point of a pentagon node is the base, that is the shape. So is that showing that, but with, I've called it like 555 MerKaBa, because there's the additional node points on the outside, which may be to do with dynamic geometry, which I developed. But looking at me next to this square, so is that like, you know, 4D with an anti-clockwise spiral, just bear this in mind because I expand on this, going to equals, because it's like round, equaling to 5D dynamic geometry. This this is what I scaled off that to give me points on the outside, and then I took curves in and out at the top and bottom to generate like what that crop circle. So it helped me evolve my solid, and it gives you like a, you know, is that a positive, is that a spiral in and then spiral like out, is that the energy, clockwise, anti-clockwise spinning of that energy potentially, you know. That's why I'm coming forward with this. But yeah, interesting, relating back to this 5D MerKaBa is what I'm classing it as, is that when I did all this in the 2D format, if you put the point from this node point down to the node points here, that creates, it's absolutely bang on equilateral triangle. And then if you take that point there and down to the tips, again, equilateral triangle, and the same at the top here, if there was one there, it'd be perfect. So you get 3 equilateral triangles built perfectly within that solid. So that has to do with that hexagon relationship to the height, because the central point of that has allowed that to be perfect for that balance. So this is what I've developed into what I call balanced geometry. So yeah, just bear that in mind. I can check all this to verify it to, you know, perfect. And then if you take these points, so all these node points on the extremes, and then create a wireframe from there up to the top and all the way around, this is the shape that you get. And to me, this is an isosahedron 5D water geometry, because the liquid water geometry is about half of that. That's what an isosahedron is. It's all equilateral triangles, but they're on the top and they come down to this point. But is this when water goes through its precipitation into like a gaseous form? Water is a miracle element. You know, it freezes at below zero, solid, and above zero it turns into water, liquid, and then it goes into gas, and you know, and they think potentially it's abundant in the whole universe. Space is energy, so is space, is water the miracle element? You know, it's something worth thinking about, to be fair. So yeah, that again shows, so you've got the equilateral triangle perfect there, and perfect there. So they're in, you know, it just shows it. That's in the 2D. So effectively, you know, when you do the isosahedron in 3D, that will go down. So the equilateral triangle will come to meet there. But this is the 2D bit of it, if you know what I mean. If you can understand, I'll elaborate. But that kind of makes sense to me. Hope it's coming across okay, and hope I'm not sounding too boring or too monotone. Trying my best. Yeah, I'll try and keep it interesting. I'll keep it reasonably short if I can. So much I'm trying to just cram in here. Going back just quickly, negative null points of the pentagon or star. So that's what I'm relating to on the crop circle. I'll flick back, but that's what I'm meaning. That's like in shapes, the bases are the negative, you know, the base of the pentagon to me is that. And then you've got the sides. So that's the negative point. If you draw a line through halfway, you've got 3 points above the horizontal. So they're the positive end of the pentagon. Hence, the 5-pointed star on the upright is good, but inverted is negative. So, you know, that's I've seen some pictures of yeah, in religion with them inverted and that, which can go into, but this is some yeah, just looking at the torus field, that's like the technology that they built off the, you know, the Tesla benefilar coil design and Hebrew stuff on to build up this technology. So that's like generating the donut field, the torus field, effectively for free energy. That was just using that for the picture. I'll just go quickly back to the crop circle, and that's what I mean there, like negative of the pentagon and that positive. So that's showing that negative positive in the dynamics. So yeah, move on. Just wanted to touch on nature just to show how like a triangle, 3-point of the center there, and you have a pentagon with spinning finials. Then you've got a decagon on the outside, perfectly in between these points. And then you've got these beautiful, you know, ultraviolet finials picking up the energy of the sunlight. You know, that shows a free energy device if I've ever seen one, and how plants absorb the energy and use the water, obviously combined to go together. So there you go, and then move on to cymatics, just to show the representation of the pentagon and hexagons and octagons in piano notes at the first octave. I'll zoom in on that. Zoom out, go into that. I just wanted to try, yeah, going a bit nearer for you there. So there you go. Yeah, the first octave, piano notes. So that's water in a 3D, like the cymatic patterns when A and then A sharp, and they're the patterns that they give off. So you can see how potentially crop circles are formed, you know, either through UFOs or by planetary frequency. You know, C1, like, you know, they create beautiful patterns, not just purely off the musical instruments, musical notes. So I'll move on, and that just shows infinite bedding of stars within stars. That's another crop circle showing somewhat similar to that. How, you know, it's just giving you a reference to that to let you know what they're about. Just gone into, so I did the 3D MerKaBa and the 5D MerKaBa overlay to scale. That's a wireframe of it, just to give you a little idea of the scale from one point to the next. And there's a solid version, the MerKaBa in the center. And then, well, the 3D current MerKaBa, and then that's the 5D, my 5D multi-dimensional MerKaBa. Obviously, there's a 4D one in between, but as on the Fibonacci ratio, it goes 2, 3, 5, 8. You know, that's through 90 degrees of the cycle. So, yeah, that's where I was at with that. So you've got a dynamic geometry there. I'll want to make something up on that, but it's like a disc. And it could be that they're your chakra points. You'll end up with additional chakra points within your body. It's like your light body, your higher dimensional body chakras, with additional ones on your outside, like you're giving you additional senses. You know, they say the 5 senses, but the 6th sense, a perception, and then 7th sense, you know, clairaudience, clairvoyance, clairsentience, you know, that these are all elements of tapping into other energy centers. So, I mean, I going back to youth and being younger and being in the odd scuffle defending people as I did, bullies and what have you, standing up against bullies. And coming from my father's and grandfather's lineage of being a warrior, I've sensed danger 360 without knowing, without looking. I've felt it, you know, coming from behind me, and you can slow time down and tap into this energy. It's your subconscious mind essence of energy which can tap into this. But so, yeah, interesting stuff. So that's just where I've developed that. But now I just wanted to go into the heartbeats and some of the Tesla stuff. Seems to have lost my cursor. Yeah, here we go. Okay, let's go back in. So yeah, the heartbeat. Now, Dan Winter referenced him, and Nassim Haramein as well. That they reference geometry, and the 60 Nassim Haramein references a 64 tetrahedron, which is like the heartbeat. You start with 1, and then it amplifies out to give you the 64, and then your heartbeat starts again. And Dan Winter says that, well, when studying the heart, there's 7 muscles in your heart that beat like simultaneously to give you a spiral effect of your blood. It's like your blood's vortexed out of your heart, and it changes all the time to accommodate, you know, the frequency to adjust, and just boom, it fires 7 times each beat. It goes boom, 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 to like spiral that energy out, which is what kind of this represents. But this is the firing action, and this is Tesla's, you know, knowledge, you know, the future. And this is what he classed as expand on this because I've come up with some new information, I feel, on this. Past, present, and future, and this is the 369 that, you know, he always says, understand 369 and you'll understand the key to the universe, the energy. And he talks about mass and length and time, which part of me thinks that the spiral is time and the geometry is space. Yeah, so you got time and space. That's my kind of take on things as well. But this, you know, jumps from positive to negative, but it's, bear with me because I'll go into a bit more on this. But again, this talks about the donut. So this is the quantum, like the torus. You've got the torus field spinning, and this is how your DNA works as well. You know, it comes into a point and then fires faster than the speed of light because it becomes a scalar wave or a longitudinal wave. So if you've got an AC wave that comes down a cone, when it gets to that point, it has to go in a straight line, you know, and so it's a standing straight long wave. And then, all right, it might go back into that, but it fires through that, and that's what they say how your telomeres and DNA works, and that. I'll not go too much into that. I just want to touch on various aspects, but you know, the hair spiral on your head, you know, it looks like a galaxy or a, you know, a hurricane or a storm system is the same, and then you've got neural net is the same as a cosmic web, and you look at it through energy. So it's like I say, it's space. It's macro, micro. Looking at the minute to the, you know, infinite sizes. It's crazy. It's all the same. So, like of the solar system, planets and stars, that your chakra system, Earth being the hearts, and you've got the sun that's a crown, or the soul star, and then you've got Mercury as your third eye, and Venus the throat, blah, 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 you know, and then Uranus is that uranium, and Pluto, plutonium, you know. This is where we've not been told the truth. So I'll just go on to this. Anyhow, it's there's, you know, Nikola Tesla, great man, brought us radar, radio, AC current. I think he developed free energy in his Warcliffe Tower in Colorado. He mimicked the pyramids of Giza, which were an ancient energy devices, really, if you ask me, because they are underground rivers which generate static electricity, underground cavern, granite-lined tunnels that go up to the king's chamber that probably had giant crystal, or the what they call as a arc in the esophagus, which was a copper, 3 foot by 2 foot copper. Never had mummies in, you know, come on. And it was like sound chambers, you know, they had light coming in, sound, static electricity. It was built with, like I say, copper. The esophagus was copper, conductor electricity. It's like an electrical wire, you know. The outside of the pyramids were limestone, great insulator. So, and the capstones were solid gold. So did they fire plasma energy across the planet to the Bosnian ones, and they're all over the planet, ironically at phi ratio as well. So I believe they were fourth dimensional technology. I believe that the Egyptians had more of their DNA strands open, so they had more universal conscious knowledge, and they could use levitation potentially with cones, or when you see them with the magnets and there's hieroglyphs and all sorts that suggest that, and that they had electricity, light bulbs, and yeah, that's another history. His story, as you know, well, history, you know, the victors write history, don't they? So the past is not always what we think it is. Yeah, so quickly go on to this, because it's gonna be too long. I'm trying to keep it reasonable. Yeah, so Nikola Tesla, good man. I'll just go into the 369 quickly. This is the heartbeat. So you go 1, 2, 4, 8, you know, 7, 5, 1, but really it is the heartbeat. 1, 2, 4, 8, 16, numerology. 1 and 6 equals 7, 32 equals 5, and then 64 equals 10, which is 1. So it's like, you know, reset. So that's your trigger again. So that's how it works. It's the heartbeat of the person, effectively. And humans are probably the most efficient reactor on the planet. You know, we don't need food as much as you think. If you go to sleep, you wake up with more energy than what you did when you went to sleep, and you're not eating in the night time, so we regenerate. Yeah, and this is just touching on the ancient, so that's the Nanagan nine-sided shape, Nanagan, and this is the ancient Solfeggio scale. And you'll notice each center numbers 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, and still represents, but these are the frequencies. These are the frequencies that are used for support, DNA repair. 5 to 8, that's the high heart frequency, I believe. So I listen to music through 5 to 8 tuner, and you can tune instruments to it and the like. So yeah, these are the Solfeggio scale. Solfeggio. But if you look at this, these are the differences between each scale, the frequency differences, and the numerology reference. So it's 963 when you do the numerology, add everything together. But they're the differences between 111, 102, 111, but they all equate to 3. But then that's 369. So to me, that's the 3rd dimensional scale. So I've looked to expand onto the 4th and 5th and 6th dimensional Solfeggio scale in terms of that. So I took them figures and I put the 9 to the front and the 8 to the front, 7, blah, blah, blah. It worked through to give me a new firing order of that sequence. So that one came out as number 1, 2, 3. So if I re-equate that back onto that scale, you start here at 1 and it goes anti-clockwise around the shape. So is that 4D anti-clockwise spiral energy, frequency? This is where I've just been working with numerology and came up with this, and then I've done the same again. So I've expanded to a higher frequency for 5D, because this is what Schumann resonance and all that's based on. We have a universal frequency and then a galactic, and everything's an overlay of energies. So I've gone into the 5D, and these are the new firing orders going on numerology of them. So if you go down, it's exactly opposite to the 4D, but in a clockwise. It's a mirror image, basically. So is that the 5th dimensional clockwise energy? And then I'll go touch on this because I wanted to talk on Dodecahedron inside there. I've got my pentagonal pyramid on the outside. So I'm now, instead of thinking outside the box, I'm wanting to think outside the dodeca. Let's think outside of the ether, because the ether's got to have come from somewhere itself. So this is my perspective of that. So you've got 6-dimensional energy centers from these points all projecting onto the pentagon of the shape of the dodeca, with the new geometry, which is an expanded, so it's more positive than what would be the internal of that dodeca, which would be the internal pentagonal pyramid for a dodeca. So it's more positive on this level. That's why they think 5D is, above and benevolent, whichever way I want to look at it. There's no good, bad, right or wrong or whatever, which come from a 0 point and forgive others. Don't need to forget, but we can forgive. So yeah, this is just relating, and I think that's where we represent DNA is based on this. And I think because we've found DNA, that's like the 5th dimensional energy field that generates our bodies and like how we exist. So yeah, that's just the models that have expanded off. So, but it creates an expanded isosahedron. So it's just when you take those null points again, you then recreate a perfect isosahedron on that. And then just moving on to the 6D ones, just to show how when it gets to, figures get to 6D, it jumps back to the, well, 9, 3, 6, change the sequence. And I'm sure as we went 7, 8, 9, I've not done them yet, but I'm sure it'll work on a similar sort of aspect as the 4, 5, and 6. And then I've started briefly touched on the 8D MerKaBa because that's how church spires are built. Coincidentally, if you look at them, they're all octagonal. And yeah, I've quickly just put that over on scale. 8D MerKaBa. There's some maths behind here that I'm kind of just keeping, well, I can go into it. I'm happy to share my knowledge. I'm not, you know, I'm not hung up on everything. I think everyone should share the knowledge and for the benefit of all, for nothing, you know. We're here to help and be of service to each other. I feel that's important. So yeah, I just wanted to touch, because that's the Fibonacci golden ratio. I've done the 3, 5, and 8, which is what that represents in terms of energy signatures. I feel that emit from your 0 point and your from planet's core, for instance, that creates all the energy bodies around the planet. You know, Van Allen belt, the atmosphere, the the magnetic field. And then this is one of my pictures of a crop circle, which you've got a poster of. And I think this represents the high heart. I mean, look at it, next to the shape of a heart. And it's above it, high heart, which again, probably technology, reasonably positive, negative. It'll be an energy type switching device with magnets potentially to give us perpetual energy. Yeah, and that's what we'll go into an octagonal geometry on that one. There's a high heart frequency, 5, 2, 8. You know, they're telling you stories, numbers. They're not all just numbers for maths and that. It's, you know, 8 is infinity, 9's universal spiral, which is a, you know, like I say, a Fibonacci spiral. And the physical heart frequency that we currently know is 432, which is what instruments were tuned to before the 1950s. And then I think the Rockefeller Foundation introduced like pharmaceuticals back in the day, which pharmaceuticals I've just found out equals some poison, administering, taking poison or something like that. Anyhow, I'm not going to all that, but yeah, that's the they changed that frequency to 440, which when you look at it in a cymatic, 440 is in dissonance, it's not clear. So that's why sometimes when you listen to the radio, you sometimes can't pick up lyrics. You're like, what were they saying? It wasn't quite crystal clear, but if it was at 432 or 528, it would be clear. Yeah, download an app for both of them and listen to the conversions when it converts it. Very good. And then, yeah, going on, just move on to star forts that are around the planet. They're all over the place. Portsmouth, they're in the UK, there are loads in, like, I think this one's Portugal, but they're all across like Russia, they're in America. At the base of the what's it, Britannia, in New York. Oh God, Statue of Liberty. Oh God, Statue of Liberty. If you look at the base, it's a star fort, and this is what is come from the civilization that we called Tartaria, which was before 1800s. hidden history, we think. It is there's stuff coming out worth looking up, but this is you know, built into the hillside. This has been all sculpted to generate like a cymatic pattern. And in fact, Berlin is a good example. Berlin has got a star fort all around it, and apparently the animals in the zoo at Berlin are really happy because it's like a harmonious. It creates harmony within the environment that you're in within it. It's like being in a pyramid. You know, it generates a harmonious field. So yeah, just wanted to share some of my knowledge and some of my findings and my own brand new stuff. I hope this is all what I've come up with. That I've never looked. It's something that I've meditated on, looked into nature, and then asked the question and connected with my higher consciousness to try and give me some clarity. So hope you found this interesting. I'll go into letter shifts. There's plenty of stuff on that, but I'll not go into it. There's too much. Like Earth, for instance, move H to the front and it spells heart. So anagram for heart, spelling word magic. So bear that in mind. And vision, telling your lies, it's programming you. And government, control, mind, govern, control, meant, mind. Yeah. Anyhow, just a few things, but I'll finish on that note. And hope you found this interesting. Thank you for watching, and I will update any comments. I'll try and get back. I'll upload this. So thank you very much. Thanks for your time. Okay. Namaste. Take care.